Hello, ghosties. You're listening to Not My Ghost.
Not my problem. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Jen.
Whether you're a skeptic, a true believer, or somewhere in between, join us for a journey into the unknown.
Because remember, when it comes to the paranormal, it may not be our problem.
But it's certainly someone's problem. Just a public service announcement from Not My Ghost, Not My Problem. When you're at work, you should try your best to not be an insufferable cunt all damn day.
I think that's pretty good advice.
Yeah, because at work, I have one of those. And I'm quite done with her shenanigans.
You tell her.
And yeah, it's like, what would happen? Like, if you weren't an insufferable cunt for 2 minutes, would you implode and form a little black hole, or would
Maybe.
the world stop spinning? Like, what would happen if you were just like, hey, I'm gonna be a cool, decent human being today?
They don't even have to be cool. Just like not
a cunt.
Yeah, exactly.
Just not a cunt. I have a coworker who, I'm not going to say her name, but she said her and her husband are going to listen to the podcast, and I know she's laughing right now because she knows exactly who I'm speaking about.
And if anybody from my job is listening, this is not directed at you at all because I love you all.
Yeah, no. This isn't
not to
Jen's
brag,
job.
but
thanks for not being an insufferable cunt to my best friend. That's what I can say to Jen's coworkers.
They're not. They're awesome. I work with a lot of great people.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, welcome to our scripted, unscripted banter.
Yes, welcome.
Do not have a question for you because this was not meant to be 2 parts when I started.
True. Very true.
So I did not write out any question for this second part because I didn't know it was going to happen.
Well, can you think of anything off the top of your head?
Oh, you're asking me to do thinking? I don't do well at that.
I've known you for a long time. I think you think pretty well.
Not off the top of my head, though.
I got one.
Okay.
So when you think of a haunted location, like let's talk about like Penhurst, something, Sweet Springs. What is she doing? It's her ball.
Yeah.
She's trying to get her ball.
But she's like pushing the blinds.
Why? Ellie, what are you doing? It's like she's pushing a kid on a swing.
She's having fun. She's like, okay, I'm done.
All right, back to my question.
Uh-huh.
When you think of like very haunted places, like we'll say like Penhurst or Sweet Springs or Trans-Allegheny, when you think of the activity there, do you think that it is the people that remember the place? Or do you think it's the place that remembers the people?
I don't understand.
So, like, if there's ghosts there and there's hauntings, like, is it the ghost of the person remembering the place and what happened to them there? Or is it the location and the trauma that happened there remembering the people and what happened to them there?
I think it can be both.
You think?
I think it depends on the different type of hauntings. Like, I definitely think you have a lot of residual hauntings in those type of places where that is just the trauma and the place holding on to that residual energy that's just repeating these things over and over again. And then I do think that there are intelligent spirits there that are actually people that were there and have died there or had some type of attachment to that location.
Either way, it could be intelligent, though. Because if it's the place remembering the people and what happened to them, that place is gonna be able to give responses of that memory of what happened to the people there.
Okay, I guess I see what you're saying. I don't I don't necessarily think I think that then. When
Okay.
I say, like, the place remembering, I'm more so meaning the energy that's there
Mhm.
and more of that residual type energy that's kind of just playing a lot of stuff on repeat, or the place having so much trauma that it attracts other entities, whether malevolent or I guess just roaming around ghosts that are like, "Oh, this place looks cool. Let me go hang out here." I don't
Well,
know.
there is the theory that if a place has such negative things that happen, it creates its own
Yes.
negative spirit, I guess. It's not like a soul or spirit of a person who lived,
Yeah.
but it's like takes it's its own little entity that goes around causing mayhem.
Which that's a funny segue because I know I mentioned last week that this episode is technically a three-parter, but we're not gonna get to part 3 for a month and a half, probably not till November because 'cause we're getting into spooky season and all of that. And the 3rd part of this episode is going to be on tulpas, which is a thought form that people can physically create and then interact with. So I don't want to
Okay.
tell you too much about them because we'll learn about them in that episode in a month or so. But yeah, I definitely believe them because I've been researching.
Well, look at me asking the perfect question
You
to
did.
segue into our episodes.
You did. Great job.
See, I
I'm
can
proud of
think.
you. Yeah. In my defense,
Also,
I literally just finished working about 5 minutes ago. So
oh, I got home at 2:30 and then I
yeah,
spent some time with my family who are not insufferable cunts, which helps a lot after
that is
getting home
good.
from work. Yeah,
That's good.
it is.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
just finished working and my brain is on depleted mode from work. So I couldn't
Mhm.
really think off the top of my head.
I get it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we are going to dive in. So, last week in the Psychology of Thought Part 1, we went over the different cognitive styles and the different ways that people think. So, if you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to it before you listen to this one because it'll make a lot more sense. I mean, you could listen to them out of order if you want, but you might be a little confused.
Right.
So, I recommend going listening to that one first. This week, we're going to talk about the different ways that these cognitive styles experience the paranormal. The way that we think doesn't just shape how we understand the world, it shapes how we experience the unknown. Depending on how your brain processes information, the paranormal might show up in entirely different forms. So, we're going to talk about how these different cognitive styles might influence what people perceive when they encounter something they can't explain. First, inner monologue. I'm just going to give a brief recap of what each of these cognitive styles are, and then I'll go into the information. So, remember, inner monologue thinkers, they think primarily in words and they narrate thoughts as an internal voice. So they might experience disembodied voices, whispers, names being called, or an internal message that feels external. Some will describe hearing full sentences in their head that doesn't sound like their own inner voice. And this can happen in total silence or can also happen against like a faint background noise. Their brains process reality primarily through language. So when they encounter ambiguity like creaks, distant chatter, or even the noise of their own blood flow in their ears, it may be unconsciously converted into words or phrases. This phenomenon
Phenomena.
doo, 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 is known as auditory pareidolia. It's the same quirk that lets people hear lyrics in static. For an inner monologue thinker, that verbal translation happens almost instantly. And that got me thinking about EVPs and how we can listen to the same EVP that someone says they caught and all hear completely different things. So
Right.
dug a little bit into that. EVP recordings often contain a faint or ambiguous sound, a random noise, static, some overlapping voices. And because inner monologue thinkers' brains naturally seek language, they actively piece together fragments into coherent words or sentences based on their own expectations, memories, or context. So, this means that one person might clearly hear a specific phrase while another person hears something completely different or doesn't hear anything at all. It's similar to how people listen to a scratchy radio broadcast and interpret the unclear sounds through their own linguistic lens. Our brain fills in the gaps differently depending on our dominant cognitive style, our mood, or what we're focusing on in that moment.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And specifically for that, I think that's one of the reasons why I love the Estes method so much. I know that's not EVPs, it's spirit box, but it's similar type concept where you're hearing a voice through a staticky sound. And that's why I love the Estes method is because you are removed from that external source of knowing what the questions are.
Right,
When you do a spirit box session and you know the questions or you're listening to an EVP recording and you know what the questions were asked, our brain can hear static and piece together what would be a logical response to that.
right.
Whereas when you're completely removed from the questions and you're just interpreting the noise and what you hear actually answers or is a response to what was said, I think that just gives it a little bit more validity
Yeah,
to the evidence.
yeah. And I also like when I do the Estes method, it's weird because I can't like just listen to what I'm actually necessarily hearing. Like
Mhm.
I have to not focus on the sound to hear
Yeah,
things, if that makes sense.
absolutely. Well, as someone who has done the Estes method, it does. To
Yeah.
others, it might not.
Yeah. Maybe other
Yeah,
people that do Estes experience it differently. But
that's
for
true.
me, it's not I have to not focus as much on what I'm hearing, and then I can weirdly hear
Yeah,
more.
yeah. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
People with internal monologues are more prone to interpreting stray thoughts or ambient sounds as spirit communication or an EVP like experience. A whispered get out might be an overinterpreted pipe hiss, but to them, it's as real as if someone leaned in and spoke it.
Okay.
So, an example of this, of some type of paranormal experience that someone with an inner monologue might experience, is them walking alone and suddenly hearing a voice softly saying their name, even though no one is nearby. For believers with an inner monologue style, hearing voices or messages during paranormal events or EVP recordings is often seen as direct communication from spirits or entities using language, which is the most accessible medium for them. The clarity or the detail they hear validates the experience and strengthens their belief in an otherworldly presence. Skeptics, however, argue that what inner monologue thinkers perceive as a voice is the brain's natural tendency to find meaningful language in ambiguous sound, auditory pareidolia. They suggest these messages arise internally rather than from an external source, and the difference in interpretation between listeners underscore the subjective narrative of the experience rather than the objective evidence.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
it is. And as someone who has an internal monologue and has experienced the paranormal in a lot of different ways, I can see some of the validity to what, I just said. I do feel like I hear more than the other things. I've had other experiences, but I definitely feel like auditory experiences are probably the most common for me.
I don't know. At the old house, I had a lot of visual as well,
You did.
but I'm definitely an inner monologue person.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and the whole point of these 2 episodes is to point out how everybody experiences things differently. So, in no way, shape, or form am I saying that people with an inner monologue are only ever going to hear the paranormal and people that are visual thinkers are only ever going to see the paranormal. That's not what this is. This is
Yeah.
just explaining what might be the most common.
Yeah.
So, next is those visual thinkers. Visual thinkers think in vivid images or mental pictures rather than words. So, they may experience apparitions, flickering shadows, light anomalies, symbolic images in their minds, like animals, faces, shapes, or shapes appearing in mist or reflection. They may see scenes play out in their mind's eye as if projected, brief but almost like dreamlike visuals. Because visual thinkers are wired to process and remember the world in pictures, when something feels off, the brain fills in the gaps with a visual representation. This can cause them to notice subtle movement or changes in light that others miss. But it could also lead to visual pareidolia, which is seeing shapes or faces in random patterns like tree bark, shadows, window panes, things like that. When confronted with ambiguous visuals like flickering lights, shifting shadows, other things, visual thinkers tend to mentally enhance or complete these images based on past experiences or expectations. For example, a vague shadow may solidify into a distinct figure or face in their mind, while others only see darkness. This constructive process makes their paranormal sightings feel vivid and undeniable. And that I felt was really interesting because while I can visualize things in my head, it's definitely not my strong cognitive style. And I am that person when someone puts a picture of a dirty window or whatever and says, I call it a ghost. I'll read the comments on Facebook or whatever and they'll be like, oh, yeah, I see it. I see it. I see it. And I'm looking at it. I'm like,
I see
I got
nothing.
nothing.
Same.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing.
I am
And
the same
that
way.
I think makes sense because I am not generally a visual thinker. I will see things. I definitely do still experience visual pareidolia where my brain puts together images. I think that's just natural for everybody. But I've had a lot of experiences where other people will claim to have seen stuff and I just don't.
What's interesting to me is when I've seen visual things, it's always moving.
Yeah.
Like, well, I watch a lot of shows about this paranormal caught on camera and things where they'll kind of go through different videos or submissions people send in. And the ones where it's just like a freeze frame of something, I'm never the one that's, oh, I see it. Now,
Yes.
after they like zoom in, circle it, enhance it,
Right.
then I'm like, oh, maybe I can see
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
But
Sometimes.
yeah, yeah. But if I visually see something, it's almost always moving.
Yeah. As far as visual, I mean, I've seen the apparition from your bathroom in your old house, but honestly, besides that, there really hasn't been too many other visual experiences that I can say I've had.
Yeah. Possible shadow man, but, 8 lemon drop martinis.
Right, right, yeah, and waking up out of you know, from being asleep. Eh,
Mhm.
debatable whether I actually saw that or not, but yeah, just interesting. That's just not something I've experienced a lot.
The interesting thing about you seeing that shadow person is that it was doing a thing that the shadow person in our house did and in a
Yeah.
room that the shadow person in our house did that thing in.
Yes, that is true.
So,
But I also knew that
you did.
the shadow person was
You
seen in
did.
that room.
Yeah.
That's where I'm not sure. So visual thinkers may see things that others don't, either in their peripheral vision or in darkness. Their minds tend to create visual narratives of energy or emotion, especially in eerie, scary environments, making their experiences feel intensely real and detailed. So, an example, a person glimpses a faint human shape at the edge of their vision, while another just sees an empty space. Believers say that visual thinkers who believe in the paranormal often see their vivid visions as genuine manifestations of spirits or energy. The clear, detailed imagery strengthens their conviction that what they saw was real and supernatural. Where, on the other hand, skeptics explain these experiences as the brain's natural tendency to find familiar shapes or faces, pareidolia, in random visual stimuli, especially in low light or stressful situations. They say what visual thinkers see is often a constructed interpretation rather than an external apparition.
I like it. It's very interesting stuff.
It is. I was fascinated by this when I did my
Yeah.
research. I just kept diving deeper down the rabbit hole.
It's an interesting concept to explore.
Yeah, it was. Next, we have our emotional thinkers. So, emotional thinkers process the world mainly through feelings or moods, and they might experience sudden, intense waves of emotion, grief, dread, comfort, joy, all that kind of seem to come out of nowhere and are often tied to a specific place, an object, or a moment in time. These feelings can be so strong that they can bring tears, chills, or other extreme emotions. Emotional thinkers interpret reality primarily through their feelings rather than sights or words. So, subtle environmental clues like musty smells, specific lightings, or an echo can trigger a powerful emotional response linked to memories or associations. In paranormal contexts, these sensations are often perceived as emotional energy left behind by past events or spirits. Emotional thinkers, rather than focusing on the sounds or the images, might hear or feel an emotional tone behind maybe like an EVP or just in general in an environment. For them, a faint whisper might be less about the words and more about the sadness or the anger that seems to radiate from that noise. Their brains will amplify the emotional resonance, shaping how they interpret this ambiguous stimuli.
That's interesting. It's
Yeah, it
hard for
is.
me to imagine. Okay, a lot of these are hard for me to imagine because, when you have your style, you can't imagine that other people don't. This
Yes.
one is one of the hardest ones for me,
Yeah, I
that
agree.
you might hear a noise and somehow an emotion is attached to it, and it can
Yeah.
be just very subtle. I don't know, the emotional is hard for me.
I kind of think of this as like people maybe that are more on the sensitive side where they just get those feelings about certain places.
I don't know.
Like, I know when we were at Penhurst, when we would walk into certain rooms, we would both comment on just how heavy it felt. And let's be real, the whole location was heavy because a lot of tragic things happened at
Yeah,
that
but there were
location. But
definitely areas that were worse than
exactly.
others.
Exactly. We would walk into one room and I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." And then we'd walk into another and immediately I would and one of us would say something and the other one would be like, "Oh yeah, I feel it too." But it never got to the point where we would break down. Whereas I think some people might. They might walk into that area and those emotional thinkers might experience that feeling that we were feeling times 10.
Yeah, the only thing I had that was intense was that one room that I just needed to get out of.
Yeah, I do remember that one.
Yeah.
So, emotional thinkers might interpret a temperature drop or an eerie silence as some sort of wave of emotion. These feelings often bypass logical analysis and it makes the experience feel very authentic and personal. For example, someone might enter a room and suddenly feel overwhelming sadness with no apparent cause, which could leave them visibly shaken.
Yeah.
Believers think that emotional thinkers often view these intense feelings as genuine spirit energy or emotional imprints from past events, which validate their paranormal experience. Skeptics will attribute these feelings to natural emotional responses triggered by the environment, a memory, or an expectation. emphasizing the brain's power to generate strong emotions without external cause. Which that
I
makes
can
sense to
see
me
it.
because
Yeah.
when you are at a location where you know the history, like, and you, especially if you walk into a certain room or something, it can just automatically feel heavy, or you can feel this extreme emotion because you know what happened there.
Right.
That's why it was always interesting to me in some of the paranormal shows, they will bring in like a medium. Like, I know they did this pretty often in Portals to Hell with
Mhm.
Jack Osborne and Katrina,
Yeah.
where they would bring a medium in and they would have them blindfolded. So the medium
Yeah.
would not know where they were and they would not know anything about the location. So they would be blindfolded as they were walking through, and the Jack and Katrina would say nothing. They wouldn't validate anything that they were saying. And again, this is TV, so is it real? Is it fake? Do they know about it ahead of time? Is it scripted? We don't know. If we're assuming that it's real and they're not faking it, then that was always really fascinating to me that they could pick up on these exact things
Yeah.
without even knowing where they were.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Next, we have unsymbolized thinkers. So again, they think without words or images, and they just will say that they know something, right? Just out of nowhere, they just know something. They might experience sudden, wordless certainties, such as I'm being watched or something terrible happened here, without any visual or verbal explanation. These impressions often come abruptly and feel undeniable. So, unsymbolized thinkers will skip language and imagery, and they will jump straight to abstract knowing. Environmental clues such as subtle shifts in air pressure, faint vibrations, or body postures may trigger these instantaneous intuitions without conscious reasoning. So rather than hearing or seeing anything specific, unsymbolized thinkers may receive intuitive flashes or impressions that something is present or significant without details. They might know a message or a warning, but can't put it into words or pictures. This direct knowing can feel more powerful than any type of sensory evidence.
Okay. It's
So,
an interesting one
paranormal,
too.
yeah, it is. This one, a part of me thinks this is you in certain situations, but then when we go back
Sometimes.
to more of the description, I don't think you do this on a regular basis, but I think it
Mm-mm.
definitely happens.
No, but there's definitely sometimes that I just know with no other explanation of just and then in instances where that has been able to be put to the test, I'm always right. Sometimes you can't it's something that we just can't we'll never know if I'm right,
Mm.
but the times that it is a situation when we can know, I'm right.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. I would also be really interested to, and I don't know if any type of study, I just thought about this, but any type of study or anything has been done. But I would love to dive into mediums and psychics and what their cognitive style is.
Yeah,
Because if I had to guess, I would say they were probably unsymbolized and emotional thinkers,
yeah,
more so
probably.
than visual or internal monologue.
Yeah,
For unsymbolized thinkers, paranormal experiences often manifest in a gut level warning, instinctive feelings of presence, premonitions, or a strong impression that doesn't require or include any type of sensory symbols. So, an example, a person suddenly stops walking, they feel a strong, wordless urge not to proceed without knowing why. Sounds like you in the basement of Edinburgh.
yes. It
Yeah.
does. My body would not my brain was saying, "Walk." Like, "Go. Feet. Move." Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I might add, was later scratched down in that area with other
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Believers see these intuitions as a psychic or a spiritual communication and interpret the pure knowing as contact from beyond the normal senses. Whereas skeptics consider these experiences to be the brain's subconscious processing of subtle sensory information or the internal biases, which manifest as feelings or gut instincts with no external reality.
Very interesting. This is all fascinating.
I know. Next, we have kinesthetic or bodily thinkers. These types of thinkers think and process information through physical sensations. So they might experience chills, goosebumps, sudden pressures, headaches, dizziness, or sensations of being touched or brushed against. They may also feel as though the air is thick or charged. Their
Hmm,
brains are highly attuned to bodily signals and physical sensations. Even minor environmental changes like temperature drops, electromagnetic fields, or shifts in barometric pressure register strongly. Old buildings and haunted locations often have uneven heating, drafts, electrical interference, which gives a lot of frequent physical cues. Instead of
okay.
focusing on words or images, kinesthetic thinkers feel the paranormal through physical sensations. So they might not hear a voice, but experience a pressure on their skin or a chill down their spine. This somatic awareness leads them to interpret bodily reactions as evidence of spiritual presence or energy.
That's interesting.
It is. And
Uh,
what I love about this is when I'm in a paranormal location, especially when I'm just like sitting and trying to experience something or see something or hear something, I tend to feel more of this stuff because I think I'm more in tune with my body in that moment.
mhm.
Whereas on an everyday, my brain is just in a million different places that I'm not paying attention to anything going on in my body.
Yeah, but definitely when you're investigating, you do have to like, you're just quieter in general
Yeah,
because you're trying to experience the environment.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I do think that's interesting because I have obviously felt things and I've been touched and all of that. And I definitely notice it more just in those types of environments where I'm just noticing more about my body and what's going on.
Yeah.
So their experiences are dominated by physical feelings that can overshadow visual or auditory input, making paranormal encounters deeply embodied or visceral. For example, while alone in a quiet room, someone could feel a sudden unexplained pressure on their chest or a tingling sensation on their arm or in their leg.
It almost seems like that would be a scarier way to experience. If that was your main way of experiencing the paranormal, it feels like that might be a little scarier than
I definitely agree for most people, but I am at that stage in wanting to experience the paranormal where when I got touched at Penhurst, I was giddy. Like,
yeah, I
you
know.
remember I came
I
because you
know.
were ahead of me and I came out to you and I was like, Kelly, 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 something just touched my ankle.
So, the times that I've been touched or scratched, it didn't really scare me, but I just think if that's completely how you
Yeah, absolutely.
like, that is your experience of the paranormal all the time, and I think that just feeling like a tightness in the chest, like, those types of feelings would I feel would trigger anxiety in me, and that just feels like more, like, terrifying and unmanageable to me than a physical touch.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Because generally, if I feel a tightness in my chest or my heart starts to race, then and this is actually one of the things I've been talking about in therapy is that that's when I realize I'm anxious. And then it's just, generalized anxiety disorder. And in that moment, I wasn't necessarily thinking about anything that was making me anxious. But when I notice those pressures or those feelings of anxiety, then my brain starts to go, okay, what do I have to be anxious about? And then I start listing all of the things I have to be anxious about and now I'm thinking about all the reasons why I'm anxious,
Yeah.
even though I wasn't thinking of a single one of them 30 seconds ago.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's not fun.
No, not at all.
Believers will say that kinesthetic thinkers interpret these physical sensations as direct contact with spirits or energies, and they feel their presence. Skeptics argue that these bodily feelings arise from natural causes such as drafts, EMF exposure, anxiety, or a psychosomatic response rather than any type of external entity. Next, we have nonlinear or associative thinkers. And this is when you think in connections or patterns and symbolic links between ideas. So they might experience noticing meaningful patterns, repeating numbers, unusual coincidences, symbolic dreams, or sequence of events that feel like messages. They may experience intense deja vu or synchronicities that they interpret as signs. These thinkers are wired for association and pattern recognition, often connecting ideas and events that seem unrelated to others. Their brains seek meaning in coincidence, creating narratives that unify different occurrences. Instead of isolating a single event, associative thinkers will link a series of sounds and sights or feelings into an overarching message. For example, a flickering light combined with a certain smell and a dream might seem like it's a coordinated communication from spirits. This can make their paranormal experiences rich with symbolism and layered meaning.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and this is, I think, very common, and we're going to talk a little bit more about neurodivergent brains, but I think this is very common in people with ADHD and autism and other neurodivergent brains and things going on because it's just the way that our brains like to connect different patterns into different things. And I think that's where we pull a lot of our paranormal. When you're in a location and one thing happens, I think it's just like, okay, it's just one thing. Like, it's not a big deal. But then when all these tiny little things happen, none of them are that big. None of them are that
Mhm.
like, oh my God, it's paranormal. But when you add them all together, I think these type of thinkers are more prone to say that's paranormal because all these little things seem more connected than to somebody who might not have this way of thinking.
Yeah, I can see that. I definitely have a lot of that kind of a weird, like, things that don't seem like they would be connected in any
Yeah.
way. That's how I can remember just the weirdest things stick in my brain, and somebody be like, "What day was it last month when we went to the beach?" And for some reason, I'll be like, "I was wearing that blue shirt. It was a Tuesday." And I don't know
Yeah.
why the blue shirt and Tuesday are connected, but
Yeah.
that's how I got to Tuesday was the blue shirt, and it makes
Yeah.
I don't even understand it, but that's
Yeah.
how I
I'm
know.
I'm that type of person where I can lose my keys, something that I should know where they are at all times, and I don't. But if you ask me if I have a safety pin, I can tell you that in my closet, in the second storage container that I have on
Mhm.
top of my closet, underneath all of the clothes, in a separate bag, in the side pocket, there is one safety pin.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how I know that, but I know that.
I can see Nick look like he's looking for something, like he's looking around the house, and I will look at him and go, "Upstairs, top drawer of my dresser, under my tank tops." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "That's where the fabric scissors are." And he's like, "How the hell did you know I was looking for the fabric scissors?" I'm like, "I don't know, but that's where
I
they
don't
are."
know. That's where they are. I just knew
Yep.
that that's what you were looking for. I don't take it quite that far, but I will remember, like, the littlest, smallest things, and I don't know
Mhm.
why. I just when I was looking for something else, I saw that and that stuck in my brain. But something I'm also the type of person that loses stuff constantly. My apartment is
Mhm.
not that big, and I will misplace things,
But
and
you
I
saw
will
that
never
safety pin one
remember.
day. You
But I
saw it
saw that
there.
safety pin, and it's in my head forever, and that's where
Yeah,
it is.
that's where it is. Maybe you should put your keys where the safety pin is.
Maybe. But when I go to put something else that I actually need some location and I tell myself, "Okay, I'm gonna remember this is where it is," and then 2 weeks from now, I'm like, "Nope, no idea," and I
Yeah,
tear apart my apartment looking for it.
if I ever try to put something somewhere safe, I'll never
Mhm.
find it again.
No, never
It's
find it
gone.
again.
I gotta buy
Nope.
it again because
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
I
still
also
looking for
think
things. After we moved from the old house to here, I still never found them, but they
yeah.
were somewhere safe.
I'm also convinced that my apartment is a glitch in the matrix in itself, because there have been times where I have looked for something in a location, and I, like, tore the locate like, in a drawer, let's just say, and I took everything out of the drawer, I looked under things, I lifted everything up, and it was not there, and then 2 weeks later, I go in that drawer and it's sitting there, and I'm like, "How? How is this
Well,
here when it wasn't?"
I know there is something with the brain that if we are trying to look for a specific item in midst of a lot of items,
Yeah.
especially if we don't see it right away and we start to get a little like, "Where the hell is it?" That our brains will look at it and not register it as the
Yep,
thing we are looking for.
which blows my mind.
Yeah.
Happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Happens to me when I'm proofreading things for the podcast.
Yeah. Remember that one episode where there wasn't a the intro wasn't on there, or it was just the music and not the actual intro?
Yeah.
And then I think I caught it because I went to go edit something else about it or do something else, and then I
Yeah.
was like, "Wait a second, that looks different." And then I played it, and I'm like, "Wait, the full intro's not in here." And you listened to it and was like, "No, it's good to go." And it
Yeah,
wasn't
I
good to go.
no idea it wasn't there. No idea
Yep.
it wasn't there at all. Because
Yep.
and I think it's because I'm used to hearing the opening in the beginning that I almost stopped paying attention to it. Because after the music plays, I know that intro plays, and then I'm listening to the episode to make sure there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong, that my brain almost just, like, blocks that part of it out. But I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, it was there. The music
It was
played.
there.
If
It wasn't there.
if the music played, it was there."
It was there.
Yep.
No, not necessarily. But it's just fascinating. Like, a perfect example, I bought a speaker for my computer on Amazon Prime Day, and I knew that I had a speaker for my computer, and the job I used to have, I needed it, whereas then the other job I got, I didn't need it because I wore a headset, but then this job, I don't wear a headset, so I was like, "I want the speaker." So I tore my apartment apart looking for this damn speaker because I knew I had it, I knew I didn't throw it away. Could not find it. So I bought a new one on Amazon Prime Day, and, like, a week later, after I had it all hooked up, it got delivered, I'm in my closet looking through my drawer for something else, and I literally turn around, and right on the shelf is the damn speaker. Not hidden, not put away, no, not, and it was
Mhm.
just sitting right there,
Yeah.
and I just ignored it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My therapist
Brains are
told me
fun.
to write Post-it notes, like, to get, like, different color Post-it notes to, like, help me remember things I need to do, and I'm like, "Yeah, but the problem with that is the Post-it note just becomes part of the background of
Right.
life, and then I no longer see the Post-it note reminding me to do the thing."
That's why I can't set alarms on my phone to remind me to do something because it's just a background noise. When it goes
Yeah,
off, I dismiss it and that's it. It's out of my brain.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I use my Amazon device, and I'm not gonna say the name so I don't trigger everyone's device while they're listening or trigger mine, but I use that one to remind me where it will actually say,
Yeah.
"Do the blah, blah, blah," and then I will be like, "Oh, okay, I
And
have to do
I
the blah,
tell
blah,
mine
blah."
to keep reminding me until I
Yeah.
tell it to stop reminding
Yeah.
me. Yep.
Yep. Mhm. Anywho,
So speaking of non-linear stuff,
yeah, associative thinkers are more likely to interpret random or loosely connected events as intentional messages, reinforcing a belief in ongoing contact or guidance from beyond. So, believers believe that associative thinkers interpret these linked patterns as proof of spirit communication or supernatural guidance, whereas skeptics kind of view these connections as cognitive bias. Humans naturally seek patterns and meaning, even in random events, which will often lead to false conclusions.
alrighty.
And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into neurodivergent brains because we're both neurodivergent, so I
We
had to
are.
include this. This is kind of a just piggybacking off of associative thinkers because there's a lot of overlap. But neurodivergent brains will process sensory input and information differently due to different variations like ADHD, autism, or other neurodivergencies. So they might experience a heightened sensory awareness or an overwhelm, such as being intensely aware of flickering lights, faint sounds, subtle pressure changes that others might completely filter out. They may hyper focus on anomalies, notice details missed by others, or alternatively, dissociate or zone out during intense moments.
I'm all of that.
Yeah, me
The
too.
sounds, the faint sounds,
Yeah.
the faint sounds will drive me freaking insane.
Hmm.
But I'm the loudest person in the room unless I'm with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then we're both the loudest people in the room.
Then we're tied for first.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel that I'm that type of person where if I'm clicking a pen, it's soothing, but if somebody
Mhm.
else is clicking a pen, I wanna punch them in the face.
My husband, I love him. 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 He's my soulmate. If that man eats an apple, one day I yelled at him so viciously because he kept biting into an apple next to my face that he has for the next week and a half, he sat outside to eat an apple. I cannot stand the sound of someone biting into it rage. I mean, I
Yeah.
just feel rage about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I'm getting to be that point. I don't know if it's my upstairs neighbor or another neighbor or whatever, but someone has a dog that will bark and whine for hours on end. And it's getting to the point where it is rage inducing for me.
I
Like,
bet.
I want to punch a wall when it happens. And I don't want to complain because I'm afraid that it's going to end up being something where like they have to get rid of the dog if they can't train the
Right.
dogs and they're being home alone. I know it's separation anxiety and as someone who loves dogs, I'm like, no, but then I'm also like, control your dog. I can't.
Yeah.
It's driving me insane.
Maybe ask your neighbor to bring the dog down with you during the day when they go to work.
I think they have 2 of them. I don't
Oh,
know, though. I'm not
yeah.
100% again, it might not be my upstairs. I'm not 100% sure. It's hard to tell where the sound's coming from. I do know my upstairs neighbors has 2 dogs, but I don't know if it's them or not.
Mm. Yeah, that would drive me
So,
nuts.
yeah, it is. It's driving me insane. But, yeah, if, like, there's like, I can pick up on, like, buzzing in the background, like a light buzzing somewhere or yeah, it insane. Drives me crazy when I pick up on those things.
There's a room that's like the quietest room in the world where people say like I don't know, people can't stay in there very long and they get free. I just want to experience it.
Me too. I've always wanted to do the sensory deprivation tanks, like the float tanks.
I feel like I'd have a panic attack in them and I can't
Yeah.
quite put my finger on it. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but
I don't know.
that'd be
I'd be
cool.
intrigued. I'd
Yeah,
be intrigued to try. I just never have. Neurodivergent individuals often have differences in sensory gating, which is the brain's ability to filter out irrelevant stimuli. This means that they are more sensitive to environmental inputs like electromagnetic fields, background noises, or visual flickers that neurotypical brains might simply ignore. Additionally, ADHD brains are wired for pattern seeking and novelty, leading to a strong focus on unusual or repetitive events, while autistic brains often have a hyper detail recall, remembering even minute sensory details very vividly. These traits can make paranormal experiences stick more firmly in memory or feel more intense.
I just like that it's like so ADHD has or more sensitive to environmental inputs and one of them is visual flickers. And I actually had to stop you because I was like, "Is your fan on?"
Yeah.
Because I can see it flickering in the picture behind you, and it's been driving me insane this whole episode. And I've
Yep.
never noticed it before, that's what's
No,
funny.
but then
Yeah.
as soon as you notice it,
That's it,
that's
that's all
all
I can
you can
see.
notice it. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Same thing. It's like I can be in a, very loud setting and I'll be fine. And then but the second I like pick up on one noise that annoys me, that's all I can hear. And then it
Yeah.
drives me insane.
Yep.
So, due to the heightened sensory sensitivity, neurodivergent individuals may detect subtle irregularities in EVP recordings or environments that others might miss entirely. Their brains may focus intensely on fragments of sounds or visual clues, interpreting these with heightened significance. Conversely, sensory overload can sometimes cause dissociation, leading to gaps in awareness or difficulty processing the experience fully.
Hmm, that's interesting.
Paranormal encounters may feel more vivid, overwhelming, or confusing to these individuals. Their unique sensory processing means they may be the first to notice something off, but also more prone to sensory fatigue or mixed interpretations.
I can see that.
Yeah. So, an example, someone with autism may vividly recall a series of subtle noises and flickers in a room, and then they piece that all together into a consistent pattern that a lot of other people might just dismiss as random.
Hmm,
Yeah.
that's pretty wild.
Neurodivergent believers often see their acute sensory experiences as genuine interactions with spirits or energies, trusting their heightened perception as a gift or a psychic ability. Whereas skeptics will point to sensory gating differences and cognitive biases to explain these experiences as natural neurological responses. They argue that the increased sensory input combined with hyperfocus can create false positives, misinterpreting ordinary environmental noise or light fluctuations as paranormal phenomena.
Phenomena.
Do, 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 do. So, when someone says, I saw a ghost, and another person says, I felt something, and then someone else says, I just knew, they're all telling the truth from the perspective of their own brain. The paranormal isn't just out there, it is also processed through us, and our thought style may shape what kind of phenomena
Phenomena.
we experience and what we believe that it means. Next, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into believers versus skeptics and some of the different ways that they interpret this type of stuff. So, when two people witness the same strange event, one could walk away convinced that it was a ghost, while the other shrugs it off and says it wasn't anything. But what's really going on? A lot of it comes down to how our brains are wired and what we believe those perceptions mean. Believers will often interpret their experiences as evidence of something real spirits, energy, other dimensions, etc. From this perspective, your way of thinking determines your sensitivity. As we just went over, a visual thinker may see the spirit, an emotional thinker may feel it, bodily thinker may sense it. Each style brings a different tuning fork for the supernatural. Spirits or energies may communicate in the way that you are most likely to receive them, which I thought was really interesting
Yeah,
as to
that they
why
would know.
an explanation. Yeah. It could be that they try some of the other ways, and this is how they found to get through to each individual person.
Right.
So, some paranormal theories suggest that entities don't appear the same to everyone and they adjust to your mind. So the ghost might whisper to one person and show itself to another. For believers, perception is proof, especially when the experience is shared, consistent, or feels deeply personal.
I can see that.
Whereas the skeptics, they often interpret these experiences as the result of normal brain functions reacting to ambiguous stimuli. From this angle, they believe that each cognitive style reflects how your brain processes uncertainty. An inner monologue may generate voices when it's silent. A visual thinker may spot a shape in a shadow, and a bodily thinker may react to a draft as something dangerous or paranormal. The paranormal is explained as a mix of pattern recognition, suggestion, emotional priming, and sometimes neurological phenomena
Phenomena.
do 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 like sleep paralysis or dissociation. For example, heightened emotion can make people remember details differently or misattribute meaning to coincidence. To skeptics, believing is seeing, not the other way around. The mind fills in blanks using your dominant thought pattern, especially in the dark, when you're scared, or primed to expect something weird. But both
Yeah.
believers and skeptics can agree on one thing: the brain is powerful, and how you think, the lens you view the world through, has a real impact on what you notice, how you interpret it, and whether you leave thinking you brushed up against the other side or just got spooked by your own shadow.
Yeah. It is interesting how our brains all work, and I can see how skeptics would say that it is made up in people's brains almost, or how, you know what I mean? I can understand that perspective for them. Everything we experience, we only can process the world around us with our brain. So when we have a paranormal experience, I understand when skeptics say it's just your brain. Like if you hear a voice, it's just your brain. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily always agree with that, but I can understand the perspective.
Yeah, I definitely can. And I think it happens a lot as coming at it from a skeptical viewpoint. I do think a lot can be explained away, but
Mhm.
I don't know. Have had too many experiences that I try to view from a skeptical viewpoint, and I've just not been able to debunk it.
Yeah.
And I think there's just too much evidence out there saying otherwise. But I do think that a lot of what is out there can be explained away. I'm the person when you watch those, like the paranormal caught on camera, those clips or all that, half the time I see those clips and I'm like, oh yeah, that was that. Or oh, that's fake. Or oh, and I start explaining it away immediately.
Mhm.
Like, oh, that was just a person standing as in the shadow, or someone had a string tied to that. Like, I'm immediately looking at it from that point of view. But I'm also a very true believer, as you all know, if you've listened to any of this podcast.
Right. It'd be really weird to have a paranormal podcast if you didn't believe in the paranormal.
That's true.
Yeah.
It would be. And that brings us to the end of this episode on the psychology of thought. Whether you're someone who hears your thoughts like a never ending podcast, sounds amazing, sees
Mhm.
mental images in 4K, or just knows things without explanation, you're not alone and you're not broken. Your brain is just doing its thing, the way it was built to. The way we think shapes how we interpret reality, and that includes the unexplained. From believers to skeptics, everyone's perception is filtered through the same incredible organ, the human brain.
If you loved what you heard, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. Your support helps us reach more listeners and share even more spooky stories.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Not My Ghost Podcast, and on Facebook at Not My Ghost, Not My Problem. We post updates, photos, fun, interactive reels sometimes when I have time to make them. But it's a lot of fun. Go
It
follow
is.
us.
If you want even more ghostly content, consider joining our Patreon. Not only do you get the episodes ad free, but we have some fantastic exclusive perks for our supporters.
We do. Go join. It's fun.
Yeah. And if you have ever had a spine tingling paranormal encounter, share your story with us at notmyghostpodcast@gmail.com, and you will hear it featured on a future episode.
You will. So
Yeah.
go do that, please. Thank you for joining us on this fascinating journey into the psychology of thought and how it shapes our experiences and the paranormal. Remember, as you wander through the labyrinth of your own mind, keep this in mind.
If it's not your ghost,
It's not your problem.
until next time, stay spooky.
and stay skeptical.